Next up in our Big 12 preview is the Houston Cougars. And Dalton really was kind of the same for them as it was for the other three new schools in the Big 12 last year in UCF, BYU, and Cincinnati. Experienced some growing pains going from the Group of 5 level up to the Power 5 level. Cougars finished the year with a 4-8 record after going 20-7 over the last 2 years. Head coach Dana Holgorsen was fired after 5 years leading the program, and Tulane's Willie Fritz was brought in to take over. And Fritz, man, had done a masterful job of turning around the Green Wave. They went 23-5 over the last couple seasons. Tulane hasn't had a 2-year stretch that good, Dalton, since the 1930s. It's been a long time, almost 100 years since Tulane has been that good over a couple of seasons. So he's going to try to do the same thing at Houston now. Has a high upside quarterback in Donovan Smith to work with him.
Yeah, for sure. If Fritz is going to bring that mojo from New Orleans down the road to Houston, he's going to rely on that quarterback in his passing game, right? Donovan Smith has massive tools. We'll get into it in a minute. Big frame and a huge arm. Got a receiver like Joseph Manjack on the outside coming back. And guy I really like at tight end, you're going to get into it in a minute, as well as Malik Carr, who led the country in receiving grade among tight ends. Got some real wow moments in his tape. But if he's going to succeed this year, they're going to center it around Donovan Smith and this passing game.
Absolutely. Now, the question is, the other side of the ball, everywhere on defense has a major question mark. They were the 5th worst in the Power 5 and 10th worst in the country last year in terms of EPA per play. And to make matters worse, their 4 highest graded defensive players last year are all gone as well, too. So a lot of questions defensively from what was one of the 10 worst in the country last year, and they lose their top 4 defensive players, arguably. There's a lot of questions defensively. But, Dalton, tell me more about Donovan Smith. I've seen some people, Dalton, say this guy is a top 5 pick in 2025 at quarterback. What is there to know? Why is that, and what is there to know about Donovan Smith?
Why that is because every year there's one guy with insane physical tools who, in shorts, will impress the living hell out of you, right? He's 6'5", he's 235, and he's got arguably, just sheer velocity, he might have the strongest arm in the country. This is a physical specimen, and he can run too. I mean, he had over 600 rushing yards last year. So you look at Donovan Smith, and you just look at him, and you're like, wow, that's an NFL-looking player right there. Now, there's plenty of stuff to improve still, right? Where, there's times when he flashes high-end stuff, especially the arm strength, again, is going to be the biggest thing. You go, that's a plus NFL arm, right? Just an A-plus arm. Again, maybe the strongest arm in the country. Some things to work on, though. Honestly, he doesn't make a ton of big mistakes. His turnover-worthy play rate is kind of average, but he makes, one throw per week that you just go, what in the world? Just why? A game-breaking, back-breaking throw, whether it be an interception or a dropped interception or what. The other thing, too, that I found kind of weird, and it's maybe just some guys have this, obviously, usually at the college level, a lot of guys sort this out, has a real problem throwing to his left. He's right-handed, right? And a lot of times kids come up from high school and they kind of throw one way or the other, whether it's in one side of the field or the other. But if you look at him throw down the middle and to his right, he's spectacular. And for some reason, throwing to the left third of the field is a problem. Usually, Max, what that comes down to is footwork and fundamentals, really, in your mechanics and your drop and your work in the pocket. So it's something that probably can be fixed. And I don't know if they're aware of it yet, or maybe we're making them aware of it right now. But that's what I see is I go, feels like every single big throw is down the right sideline. What's going on? There's just down to his left. It's just a whole different problem. But there is obviously a big physical potential here. Again, you have a guy who's 6'5", almost 240, with an absolute bazooka, right? And some people felt this about Joe Milton at Tennessee last year, right? So the scouts are gonna have their eyes on Donovan Smith in this passing game for sure.
They absolutely will. Another guy in the passing game they'll have their eyes on is Malik Carr, the transfer tight end coming in from Michigan State. I mean, they were really busy in the transfer portal this offseason. They added 24 new players, and the best transfer I think they brought in was Malik Carr, man. You mentioned it before, led all Power 5 tight ends with a 90.6 receiving grade, second in the nation with a 90.6 receiving grade as well. Freak athlete at 6'6", 265, nightmare to tackle for defensive backs. He had the 40th most catches among FBS tight ends last year with 40 catches. Had the 10th most forced missed tackles with 10. So he really made the most of his catches last year. Broke a tackle on 25% of his catches, which is a really, really high rate. 1.89 yards per route run, top 10 mark in the Power 5 as well. He should be one of Donovan Smith's best friends this upcoming season. I'm a big fan of Malik Carr, and like I said, they brought in a lot of transfers, and I think Malik Carr was the best one they brought in.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of the sleeper tight ends in next year's draft. There's some real wow moments in his tape, even playing for Michigan State last year. But go to another transfer on defense, and this time from West Virginia. They get a slot, strong safety, kind of hybrid guy, and certainly a guy that makes the all-name team, and that's Hershey McLaurin, man. And I'll tell you what he is, a hard-hitting slot, strong safety hybrid who wants to come down and get his nose into the run game, man. A 79 run defense grade last year. That was a top 50 mark in the country. He's a guy that can bring a real physical presence to their front seven and even play a little bit in coverage, obviously, out in the slot. Gives you that kind of little bit of everything feel. But first and foremost, he's a really physical player, brings some attitude to a defense that really, really needs it.
Absolutely, man. So, Don, you look at the sports books right now. Houston win total of 3.5 after going 4-8 last year. Do you think this is like a 3-9, 4-8 football team, or do you think under a great new coach in Willie Fritz and a very, very high upside quarterback in Donovan Smith that they could make a bowl game next year?
Look, it took Willie Fritz time to build it down at Tulane, too. That wasn't an immediate turnaround. It took him time with a guy like Michael Pratt. It took him a couple of years to really get that thing going and up towards, beating USC in a bowl game and doing all that stuff. But, I mean, you have a quarterback who you can clearly win with. But there's so many questions otherwise, right? You lost two of your top three receivers. You mentioned the defense, man. If this defense doesn't get better, then this is going to look more like a long-term project as opposed to turning it around this year. And honestly, a lot of first-year coaches come in, and Willie Fritz may just be looking to just change the culture and get the recruiting base and get even the transfer portal base with how all that works. So the winning this year may not even be the most primary goal when it comes to the program. I could see where that comes from. I think a bowl game would be successful in Coach Fritz's first year. I'm not entirely sure they get there with that defense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the defense is a major question mark. And also, they play the second hardest schedule in the Big 12, 16th hardest in the country as well. So, and not only that, I mean, Arizona State has the hardest schedule at 14th hardest in the country. Houston's second at 16th. The next closest one is at 36th, right? So those two schools play really difficult schedules. A big reason for that, Dalton, Houston's got Oklahoma as one of their non-conference games this year. So it's a big one. And they also play Iowa State, Kansas, Utah, Kansas State, Arizona. Like, they play a lot of really good Big 12 teams too. So I'm with you. I don't think they're making a bowl game next year, but I do think there's a world where they win 4 or 5 games next year. But if they make a bowl game, it would be an excellent first year for Willie Fritz. But with all the questions defensively and how bad they were last year and the fact that they lost their 4 best defensive players, I think there's a lot of questions on that side of the ball, and that could make them miss another bowl game in 2024. But that's what we got for our preview of the Houston Cougars. Hey, thanks for watching the PFF College Football Show. Before I let you go, though, we have an unbelievable deal for you guys right now. If you use the code CFB25, you get 25% off your PFF Plus annual subscription. We've got the 2024 College Football Preview Guide that you can find over at pff.com, featuring the best players in the country from all 70 Power 5 teams, plus 10 Group of 5 teams that have the best chance at making the college football playoff as well. You can also gain access to NCAA premium stats for historical games, teams, and player tracking dating all the way back to 2014, so the last decade or so of college football. All the stats you can hope for, you can find in PFF Premium as well. Also, you can be the GM of your favorite NFL team with our unbelievable mock draft simulator, where you can draft up to 7 rounds of players for your NFL team. And if you want to dominate your fantasy league, you could do that as well using the best fantasy tools on the planet. All of that and more with your PFF Plus annual subscription, which you can find for 25% off right now with the code you can find in the description. Or if you want to go to subscribe.pff.com and use the code CFB25 at checkout. Again, you get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. This won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now.